Alrighty, so let's talk about step 5 in our decision-making app. I've already talked about it in, I think, the spring break video. If you caught that, this week's schedule is a little bit different. Normally, our decision-making app falls after the due date on Monday, but these are going to fall on Thursday. So in this case, set up your folder and do fix anything. I actually realized I didn't mention that here, but there was a few things I noticed on step 4. I probably have already mentioned that. Make sure you fix them before you start on step 5. So this shouldn't be a big surprise, which is I want you to go through and refactor everything now to be arrow functions. I had you do that in attendance, so now I'm going to have you do it for your decision making app. And I definitely recommend the process that we went through, where I went through for me each one of the modules, made sure everything worked before I moved on, right? So this will be all of your functions need to be this arrow function, okay? Now hoisted make sure you're not hoisting things, and what that means is if you're haven't declared your functions as we have been doing with const, right? So, but hopefully you follow that standard and you have it set up correctly. So make sure everything works. That's how I'll check this step. Okay. Then, probably as no surprise, you're going to implement your custom logic. How are you going to do your new input, set it up in your HTML, making sure that then you update how you capture the data. Of course, you have to update your engine, your decision.js, and update your UI. Okay, so you want that new input to not only show up in your table history, like here's mine, because I had pain level, right? So in this case, my pain, be mindful, was the factor that it played into my decision making. Okay, so make sure that all those things work. Like you have your HTML labeled correctly, you have your unique ID, you handle your form handler, you update your decision logic to use that new input, and you handle the UI. And so remember, the UI is not just a submission, but also the table itself. And then step 3 or phase 3 is actually not form validation, but now that we've been introduced to form validation, how are you going to handle your form validation? So this is like we did in step 4, this is a planning step, okay? Don't validate anything, just open your README file and answer these questions. What are the required state? So like for mine, what's the required state here? So I ended up taking out, and I recommend this. And remember, you have to use the no validate here so that our custom validation when we do it. Now that'll be in week 6, so I probably shouldn't even mention it, but I've actually already done it. So in this case, you have to think of what's required here. For me, what's the range, right? So I would say it has to be above 0 and it can't be greater than 100. Right? So in this case, I have to have selected one of these. In this case, I have to have it within this range. Now, this one's pretty easy. So I'm going to end up having you do 3 validations. Okay, and I think that's what I said here. Yeah, you have to validate 3 inputs. Okay, so your planning step is just to think about how are you going to do that. Okay, so that when we get to step 6, you have at least thought about how you're going to handle form validation. Okay, so that is your step 5 in our decision making app.